Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak in English. And as I think was just explained there, most of my slides have been translated into Dutch. So that may cause some interesting challenges for me along the way, trying to remember what I'm saying, but bear with me. I have had a fever, as I think was also said. So if I sit down, don't worry. I think I'm okay. I'm here to talk with you all about transforming travel and to talk about some of the most important topics facing this industry that we all love. And we all love to talk about tourism. We love to talk about our holidays. But we don't really talk about tourism and sustainability. No one ever wrote a postcard home to their mother saying, "Mum, I'm having a most sustainable holiday. Our journey was extremely energy efficient. The staff have been fairly paid, food waste has been reduced, and the recycling is some of the best I have ever seen. Wish you were here." It's just not how we talk. When we go on holiday, the things we want to talk about when we come home is the new things we have done, the new places we have seen. We want to say how we have done more. We've had more time with our family, seen more, experienced more, had more sleep, eaten more food, drunk more beer. In all, we want to tell people that we have had a better time. Everything we have done has been better than it was the week before. But when I see a campaign or a label like this on a bottle of beer in London, drink responsibly, I know that what it means is drink less. These are the words, the frames that we use to talk about sustainable, responsible tourism. Less. Denial. Sacrifice. We're told we need to give up meat. Stop. See, now is where I lose what the Dutch means. Give up meat, cut out something or other, lose the car, stop having children. The other one was give up flying. And for this reason, apart from the fact I'm trying to do this in 2 languages, transforming tourism is a challenge. And it's becoming all the more of a challenge because of the challenges that we are finding, the world we have found ourselves in. We're in a world of over-tourism, where we are closing beaches, beginning to limit the number of tourists that can go to some of the most wonderful places. And we're seeing backlash, resistance increasingly across the streets of Europe, where people are telling tourists they are no longer welcome. And this is an industry, this is today, but this is an industry that is growing, and all the problems that are making people angry are predicted, if we carry on as we are, to get worse. We'll double our energy use in 25 years, double our land use in the same period, and in 45 years have doubled the amount of water we demand. And all of this is in the period of time that the world as a whole has to hugely be reducing, changing the way that we use water, land, and energy. And just to look at one particular part of it, in tourism, we're going to have 50% more international trips if we carry on as we are by 2030. According to Boeing, 36,000 new airliners in the next 20 years. And put that in perspective, because maybe that doesn't sound like so many. There are currently 25,000 airliners flying around the world, and we're looking at adding 36. Yes, we will retire some, but 36 more. They say in total, 45,000 planes flying in 20 years. And in China alone, 136 new airports. And that's why Gosling and Peters, 2 of the leading academics working on the impacts of tourism, say that our industry is increasingly at odds with our efforts to reduce global resource use. And whatever we think we're doing wrong, the chances are we're actually doing even more of it. Last year, research found that our impact on the climate was 4 times worse than we thought. And in the last 12 months alone, we've seen increasing numbers of protests across the streets all over, here in Brussels, against climate change. The next one is at the end of this month, the next global school strike. Last month, In fact, in September in the UK, someone glued themselves to the roof of an aeroplane at London City Airport to protest against aviation. Yeah. And for these reasons, transforming travel is a challenge. But we're business people, we're entrepreneurs, so we see challenge and we see opportunity. And we have to see this opportunity as the chance to lead. And so when I want to suggest, as I look for the rest of my talk, what we must do to transform travel, I want to transform travel to restore the environment, not just to do less harm, but to make it better, to reconnect us to one another, to reconnect us to nature, and in doing all these things, to make life better, to make holidays better. So we can start telling people that we are going on life-changing holidays that change life for good. But if we're going to make this change, then we start by one very big change. And if you take one thing away from what I'm talking about, take this. Sustainability, as we know it, is dead. This comes from a report last year by J. Walter Thompson, the world's oldest advertising agency. And their trend watching department looked across all the different industries to see what it was that people who were real innovators in sustainability, what they were doing. And what they said is sustainability, as we know it, is dead. Doing less harm is no longer enough. The future of sustainability lies in regeneration. The future of sustainability lies in regenerating, seeking to restore and regenerate that which we have lost. This is the report. It's free to download. I strongly recommend you go and have a look at it. So that's what the writers, the communicators, the creatives are saying. Those trying to write a new story are saying it's all about regeneration. This is what the climate scientists are saying too. The guy on the right, it's Paul Hawken. He's one of the longest running, most important guys working on the climate. He's been writing books on it for 30, 40 years. And in the last few years, he has got together most of the world's leading climate scientists, and they've produced Project Drawdown, and this book that comes from it. And as they say in the book, it's the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming. Not to reduce, but to reverse global warming. And what they've done is they've measured all the different types of ways that we address the climate. The things we do to create less carbon emissions or even to draw them down. And they've worked out which are the most effective, which ones we should invest most time and energy in. And they've added them all up and said if we put our time and our money into this, we would rebalance, we would draw down carbon dioxide from the atmosphere where it is a toxin back into the plants and the earth where it is a nutrient of life. And it comes up with some very, very radical suggestions. One of the sixth most vital thing we can do if we are to change our impact on the climate is to provide decent education for girls around the world. And what Paul says is that reducing, arresting, slowing emissions is important, but it is not enough. You are still on the wrong road if you slow down. The only path for us to take is one that involves us turning around and reversing climate change. You may not expect to see IKEA up here, but I want to say that it's not only the scientists and it's not only the communicators, but increasingly the most progressive thinking businesses in the world are saying we have to frame our development in terms of regeneration. And Steve Howard, Chief Sustainability Officer for IKEA, he says we've got to do this fast. Incrementalism, slowly, slowly, slowly. This doesn't excite people. It doesn't light people up. It's radical change that excites. So IKEA, by the end of next year, will be 100% powered by green energy. 10 years later, the company will be climate positive. It'll be reversing climate change, and it'll be nature positive, restoring the environment from which it has previously taken materials. Now it'll be making more positive benefit than that which it takes away. And this is the frame for us to look at how we address tourism. And we are beginning to see it. Intrepid, one of the biggest of the responsible tourism travel companies, it aims to be the first climate positive travel company, again, by the end of next year. And this hotel, the Svart Hotel in Norway, this is a climate positive hotel. It uses less energy than it produces. It is designed to only have 80% less energy needs than a similar sized hotel. And because the entire roof is made of solar panels, it actually produces more energy, feeding energy back into the grid than it needs. So this is how we transform tourism. These are big examples. That's absolutely the goal we might aim towards. But we have to start somewhere, and we start somewhere simple and small. To transform tourism, we just do something as simple as this. Pick up rubbish to pick up a free copy. On the beaches of Sydney, they run this campaign with the restaurants there. So rather than just having a sign saying, please do not litter, i.e. sacrifice, warning the negative impacts of sustainability on my life, what they say is, if you take a bag from the cafe and you go to the beach and you bring back a bag of rubbish, you have a free coffee in the cafe. So the beach gets cleaner, I get a free coffee, I get to connect to a new business, everyone gets a better time. And that's just a small example. Because the model, the approach is what matters. You can take this far wider. In Helsinki, they have an app called Rescue, and it works like a Deliveroo type of app. And basically, it is connected with lots of hotels, 150 hotels and restaurants around the capital. And when they have waste food at the end of lunch or the end of food that has not been cooked, not been eaten, they put it onto the app, they list it. And then as a local or a tourist, I can connect to these hotels and restaurants and go and collect the food and enjoy for myself a meal, stopping food from going to waste and getting a meal that otherwise I might not have had. It is a positive opportunity. Waste is not waste unless we waste it. And it's really important that we do this. Drawdown has said that when it comes to addressing climate change, reducing food waste is the third most impactful thing we can do. And here in Belgium, you have also taken this model. And at Martins, the hotel chain, they have transformed the loyalty scheme. And what they have done with their Eco-Bon loyalty scheme is they don't reward you for spending more money. They reward you for being more sustainable. If you choose not to have your towels washed or to avoid a room clean, or you go to the restaurant and have food on the menu that is labeled as Eco-Bon, that's when you get loyalty points, which you can then spend on nights in their hotels. So the more sustainable your stay, the better your opportunities, and the hotel benefits as well. And you can take this all the way up to a destination level. In Bologna, in Italy, last year they launched the Bella Mossa. It is an app. Great movement. And what they say is if you take the sustainable forms of transport, the train, the tram, cycle, you walk, the app records your journeys. And then you get points. And then they have signed up restaurants and shops in the local area. And you can then use your points for free ice cream in Italy or free beer. The more sustainable the way you travel around Bologna, the more you are connected to local businesses that reward you. And there are many ways that we can connect ourselves across where we work in order to create a network that works together and is collaborative. In Thailand, this hotel, Sampran Riverside, they have a farm growing food on the site of the hotel. And it grows organic food that is eaten in the hotel. But yet they use this farm to train farmers from the region. And so far they've trained 80, 90, 100 farmers how to grow food organically. And this means that the impacts are spread far more widely. But because 80 farmers produce too much food for one hotel, they've also gone out and worked with other hotels and other restaurants and got them to create a guaranteed market for the farmers' produce. So the farmers are growing organically and people are experiencing better food. And then their trainers, when they're not teaching the farmers, have gone to local schools and they've worked with the schools to set up projects growing organic food in the local schools. Because this is fun, exciting stuff, they take tourists on tours to see these things, to connect to the schools and connect to the farms. And once a week, they bring it all back together and they host a farmers market in the hotel where everyone comes together to enjoy lovely local food. And it's a nice thing. It connects very well at a local level, but it also matters hugely at a global climate level. Regenerative agriculture, regenerative organic agriculture also reverses climate change. According to Drawdown, it's the 11th most impactful thing we can do. Now, all those examples were about food and waste and resources, but all of them involved people. Because when tourism is really about people, about us connecting to each other. And what we have to look at is how, all the more in this time where countries like mine in particular are creating division, how can we cease this division and use our industry to improve our connections to one another? How can we reconnect to one another? In Vienna, the Hotel Magdas, 2/3 of its staff come from refugee backgrounds. They do this very deliberately. They make an opportunity for people who otherwise are being hidden away. And they say, no, this means that we have 23 different languages spoken in our hotel. This gives people an opportunity. We are a place where people should come, and as it says in their line there, come and stay open-minded. They celebrate the stories of their staff and put them on the wall in the reception. In London, Unseen Tours has rethought how we could possibly invent the tour operation, walking tours around London. And what they have done is worked with local homeless men and women and trained them up as tour guides. And what they've said is, you are the people who know the streets of London best. You have stories that no one else will know. And they empower these people to be tour guides. They change our relationships with them. Suddenly they are not people we ignore. They are people we respect as giving us wisdom and teaching us stuff we previously did not know. And they enable us to see our local area with different eyes. In Spain, Ilunion Hotels, it runs 3-star, 4-star, 5-star hotels. It has around 4,000 bed nights across the whole of the country. What makes it truly remarkable is that 40% of its staff have some form of physical or mental disability. And in 3 of its hotels, it's up to 70% of the staff. But they have been found places in the business where they can operate successfully, and it changes our relationship once again. It says, no, everything should be an opportunity rather than a challenge. And as we confront some of the biggest challenges, we need to rethink how we can repurpose our industry. In Kerala, in India, in 2018, they suffered the 100-year flood, the worst floods they had suffered for a very long time. Hundreds of thousands of people were displaced. But the response to the flood by the state is being used across the world as an example of community resilience. And many of the stories that are being told are of how tourism responded. One company in particular, this company, the Blue Yonder, it's a responsible travel company based out of Cochin in India. It's won every single award known in responsible tourism. The guy up there in the top, Gopi Paranal, he's the founder. And before he worked in tourism, he worked in disaster relief and management, so it has always been in his mind. And 2 or 3 years ago, he discovered that there was a type of rice growing in Kerala called pokali. And pokali was an unusual rice because it was resistant to salt water. And because it grew very tall, it also was able to survive floods. And he realized that this meant it could be safe regardless of what happened. It was basically a climate change resilient form of rice. But because it was more difficult to grow, people were not growing it as much, they were growing basmati. So he worked with the farmers and he encouraged them to grow it. And first of all, he gave them lessons in how to swim, and he taught them to be kayak guides. And this meant they could get around their farms more easily, and then if they weren't farming, they could also gain an extra income by taking tourists around the waters of the paddies. And then he went to the local restaurants and hotels, and he said, sell this rice. This is rice with a story. This is rice from Kerala. It is a climate change rice. You can tell something to people with this that you cannot tell people with basmati. So he again guaranteed a market for the farmers. And then he went one further, and he taught the farmers first aid. He taught them what they should do in terms of crisis. And it meant that when the floods came, the farmers, with their kayaks and their network of understanding of the whole region, were first responders. It was them who were there in their kayaks, saving people and bringing them out of their homes. And this is a very unique opportunity that I think we will need to explore for tourism increasingly in the coming years. Think where the natural disasters have all been. Madagascar, Mozambique, Nepal, Sri Lanka, the Bahamas, across the Caribbean. Beautiful, fragile places close to the sea, low-lying lands where there is very little except for tourism. We have an opportunity and a responsibility. And when we look, there are examples of people repurposing tourism to be able to respond to these crises. This is actually a project run by Airbnb. You probably see its logo in the top. And it's called Open Homes. And what they have done is they've created a version of their website which is completely free to use. No one takes any money, including Airbnb. And basically, it means that if you are in a crisis, or you need to get aid, or you are a refugee worker, people can then offer their homes for free so that refugees arriving in a new country have an opportunity to stay somewhere while they are settled, or if there's a crisis, NGOs and recovery workers likewise can have somewhere to stay. They use the network of tourism, the hospitality, the infrastructure to enable us to address these challenges. TripAdvisor has done something similar. This is refugee.info. TripAdvisor is one of the companies behind this. And basically what it is, it's a TripAdvisor for a refugee. I arrive in Berlin, I want to know where is going to welcome me, where is going to be giving me services I am looking for, where I can sleep, where I can find a meal. That's what I want as a tourist. These are the same things that a refugee needs, but just for greater seriousness. So they have basically hacked their own understanding of platforms and used it to develop platforms to welcome refugees and migrants. All of these are there to try to make tourism better. Because as we look to envision a better world against the crisis that are growing around us, tourism is in a unique spot to help us do this, because it is a fantasy, because it is something created. All of your hotels, if you run hotels, they are inventions, but they are inventions of everyday life. They are bedrooms and kitchens and dining rooms and staircases. And it means that as I wonder how I might possibly live a more sustainable life, what should I invest my time and my money in? A hotel is a perfect way for me to discover these things. This is a project currently being run in the Netherlands. It is Innovation Lighthouse. They've been sponsored by Booking.com, and they're working with the student hotel chain. And they've created a living lab in the hotel. And it is one room in the hotel, which is every single thing in it is considered to be the most advanced, most progressive way of everything, creating a bed, making a pillow, using a lamp, whatever it might be. So you can stay for one night or many nights in the hotel room and imagine and experience what a truly sustainable future might be like to live in. Scandic, the Swedish hotel chain, takes a similar approach, but this time to accessibility. For many years, Scandic has looked to work to be one of the most open hotels for everyone, regardless of their abilities. And having spent many, many years developing truly accessible hotels, they realized that if they wanted to be open to as many people as possible, they needed to share this information. So all the work that they have done is open source. You can go onto Scandic's website if you are looking to design an accessible hotel to improve your disability access, and there they provide the information for free, open source, of how they have spent a decade or more trying to solve these problems. But the greatest immersive living lab for tourism is the one that is all around us, the one that we reach out into as much as possible. And this is where I come towards the final section of my talk. How can we reconnect ourselves to nature? 75% of us as Europeans live in urban environments. Less than 1 in 10 children in the UK regularly play in wild spaces. And in America, people spend on average only 7% of the time outside. And as the writer Robert Pyle said, one of the greatest causes of the ecological crisis is the state of personal alienation from nature that we feel. How can we possibly make the changes necessary if we don't understand or connect to or truly love the natural world? And you have a remarkable organization in Flanders which does incredible work changing the way we see tourism, not just as a nice to have, but as something that truly is there to make life better. And we have a similar organization back in the UK, the Family Holiday Association. Both these organizations work with those individuals, with families who cannot afford what we take for granted, a holiday. They cannot afford a single day away from their lives and often have broken homes with violence and divorce. And what they do is they give an opportunity for people to benefit from the enriching well-being benefits of tourism. And the Family Holiday Association have measured the benefits. And the impacts on people are quite remarkable. Practically 100% of people across every single measure felt better, more able to cope, connected more as a family. Truly, the impacts on people are remarkable. And we all know it. We all know the benefits of a holiday. And what we're seeing in the UK and elsewhere is how people are changing the way that they perceive that which we offer in tourism. So Scottish GPs, a GP is a doctor, is prescribing rambling, which is walking in nature. So Scottish doctors are prescribing walking in nature and bird watching. They're saying, you've got enough pills. Instead of that, when you come to the doctor in Scotland, they're giving you prescriptions to go walking in nature and to look at birds. They're prescribing the sort of holidays that many of you sell. They are selling tourism, not selling, prescribing tourism. They understand this in Finland. This is the website of the Finnish national parks. And if you click on hiking in Finland, and then you look down the left-hand side there, you'll see that the way they promote why you should go on a walk in the national parks of Finland is for stress management, to improve a sense of community, and to connect to natural silence. And in the Hohe Tauern National Park in Austria, just outside Salzburg, researchers have worked to understand actually what the benefits of this is. And this is the Krimmel waterfall. And so they have measured the benefits, the actual health benefits of spending time by this waterfall. And they found that if people spent time, whether they were walking or just sitting at peace, in the national park near the waterfall, they actually came away more healthy. And they said, right, this is important. We need to preserve this park and give people the chance to enjoy it. So they developed a brand, a sustainable tourism brand, basically, and it's called Hoa Tauhern Health. They don't talk about sustainability or responsibility in the logo, in the brand, but in order to be part of part of the scheme, to have the brand, the things you must do as a hotel or tour company are the same things that you would do to be sustainable. You have your hotel where you don't use chemicals in the bedrooms, or you don't use pesticides in the gardens. And then they say that because your bedrooms do not use chemicals to wash the pillows, our hotels offer a better night's sleep. And because we have protected nature, you will have a better time in nature, in our park. And the benefits have been huge. They've seen 21% more visitors to the park as a result of them promoting the fact that the place is more healthy for you. And they're aware that this could have impacts on local people. So first of all, they have developed paths to spread the benefits further around, so people are not just all in one area, but are diversifying elsewhere. And at the same time, because what they have done is encourage people to set up businesses providing healthy food, sustainably made furniture, services that are more environmentally sound. This is better for tourists, but it also makes for better villages. It makes for a better quality of life for local people. And that's just one example. Everywhere we look, increasingly the research is showing, walking in woods improves our immune system. Cleaning up beaches makes the beach better, but it also increases our sense of self-worth. Simply reconnecting to nature is good for our well-being. And that's one final piece of information, which I now can't translate. If we focus on deeper customer well-being needs, tourists will stay longer, come more often, and spend more money. All of us want that. Thank you.